Why are they? Why are people looking at them now?
The low-income housing tax credit deals.
Yeah.
There's a variety of different strategies. What's the word I'm looking for? Grants, the tax credit situation. There's a variety of those kind of situations out there. We actually just closed on a deal, the 118 unit Class A product we closed on. It was the LIHTC deal, but it was a specific type of subsidized grant to the 55 plus community in this particular market. So once the grant ended, we no longer had to be 55 plus. We no longer had to have subsidized rents. And there was a $500 a month delta between where rents were versus where they could be. And so there was massive value add play, even though it was a Class A deal. It was just built in 2013. So that was the reason we liked that deal. The grant was expiring, and then it was really just a loss to lease play with that level of value add. And it's really the same thing with the LIHTC deal. LIHTC stands for LIHTC, Low Income Housing Tax Credit. And it's just a loss to lease play. At the end of the day, you've got your asset that is at the current subsidized rents. It's having to go along with the LURA, which I don't remember what that stands for, LURA, which is the guidelines that guide what the actual rent is for your area and your market or your city or your county for the deal that's within that program. And so whenever that program exits, there's typically a cool down period. It's different per city or county. For the one LIHTC deal that we bought in Montgomery, it was a 3-year cool down period. The cool down period is a 3-year time frame at which point all of the existing tenant base that was having the subsidized rents, we have to keep them at the subsidized rent growth trajectory for the next 3 years until the cool down period is completely eliminated and the program is completely eliminated. Unless they move out, if they decide that they wanted to move out and or move to a different unit and get a new lease, then we get to immediately transfer them to market rate. And any new tenant that moves in during the cool down period gets to be moved to market rate. So it's kind of an interesting little time frame of, they call it the cool down period because it's really just supposed to be a slow trajectory of you taking things back to market instead of just a quick snap of the finger, the program's over and everything goes back to market. Now that's with the LIHTC specifically. Now with this other grant that I was telling you about, with the deal that we just closed, that one will be the snap of a finger. Once the grant's over, there's no cool down period. There's nothing. It's just immediately we can take everything to market. So that one's a little bit different and niche, but really to answer your question, it's a loss to lease play. So everyone's excited about the fact that the delta between where the subsidized rents were versus where actual market rate is for that particular market. They're excited that they're going to be able to capitalize on the delta once the LIHTC period ends. And you can also get it for a cheaper price, which gives you kind of that false artificial cap rate. You know, it may look like you're buying the deal at a 4 cap or something, but really you're not having to do much of any work. You know, of course it's going to depend on the deal, but if it's a standard value add LIHTC deal like what we did, there's not actually a lot of CapEx required. More so just once the grant ends, boom, you snap your fingers and make a whole bunch more money. So people like it because it's a value add deal that doesn't actually take a lot of CapEx, doesn't actually take a lot of renovations, a lot of work. You don't have to raise a lot of capital, and you can get just as much juice for the squeeze as you could with a deal that was like really dilapidated that you had to put a lot of effort and work into.
Makes sense. But what about, would you have to reposition like the tenant demographics in deals like that?
It depends. Yeah, it depends how horrific the tenant base is. If it's really bad for them all being low income people, but more often than not, at least with the deal I shouldn't say more often than not, with the deal that we found or that we bought, Chase Park and Montgomery, our tenant base was satisfactory. We really liked our tenant base. Now, granted, once new tenants come in or once those tenants run out of the cool down period, which I think the cool down period ends in like Q3 of next year, and we start charging market rates. If they can't afford it, and they simply can't afford it, and they'll move somewhere else and do something else. But if they can and they want to stay and they're paying, I don't see why not. They've been pretty good so far. They've been paying on time, and our tenant base is quality, in my opinion, in that particular area. So it just depends wildly on what the current tenant base is, what the tenant base is in the surrounding area, and what you're actually trying to take that complex to. You know, if it's a C-class asset and it's low income housing, it's probably not much of a change that is really required or needed to change the tenant base. But if it's something like this A-class asset that we just bought, and say it wasn't a 55 plus community and it was just A-class with subsidized rents that was about to end, then we would probably have like C-class or lesser tenants wanting to get in there for the affordability aspect. And then when the low income housing situation ended, then I would definitely want to change the tenant base to people that can actually afford Class A. And I want to have a tenant base that is Class A. So just depends. All right. We're recording. Share my screen. Oh, well, got a new laptop, so now I gotta set up my settings for it to be able to share my screen. It's ridiculous. You have to allow. It says I have to restart the Zoom app to be able to see my screen.
That's happened to me before.
So if I hit later, hold on. If I hit later, I can't.
You need to do it to be able to share your screen.
Well, hold on. There it is.
You did it.
Oh, but I'm not recording. Oh, you can see it, but I can't record. Ah, that's bogus. All right, gents. None of y'all leave and abandon me, but I'm about to restart this. We'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Cool.
I'll be right here. I will never abandon you.
See y'all in 2 minutes.